let's bring in our political panel. The former vice chair of the New Jersey Federation of Republican Women, Melanie Collette, our friend, and Democrat strategist Theron Bond. Welcome, ladies.
Ladies, good morning.
Good morning.
Morning.
Well, Theron, let's start with you. Your reaction to what we just heard from DA Alvin Bragg.
I'm not surprised. I think the terrorism charge is the one that I'm a little shocked by, but I'm not an attorney. Obviously, we've seen the video. We know what he did. I would be curious to see what his defense prepares as far as what they're going to say was his motive in court, what will come from his side. I will also be curious if they decide to go the mental illness route. That's something that we commonly see in cases like this, but I'm not shocked that he's being charged in this way, besides the terrorism charge that adds a little bit of flavor to it.
Melanie, your reaction to the charges and what Theron just said?
No, I think for the first time ever, me and Theron agree. I was surprised by the terrorism charge as well, but I could see how that could happen if you are targeting a specific type of person and your motive has to do with the kind of job that person does, and maybe targeting more than one CEO. I could see how that could be a terroristic act. I'm not an attorney, but I think I could reason on how he got there, and I'm just glad to see Alvin Bragg actually prosecuting violent crime just in general. That's not normally what he does.
Yeah, for sure. So in terms of the comments on social media, how they are basically making Mangione some sort of hero, a rock star for what he did, and there's like no regard for human life from these individuals and the media outlets that are making these vile comments. Theron, your thoughts on that?
I would say that the regard for human life lies with all of those who have been negatively impacted by the healthcare system. It's significantly flawed, and year after
Theron,
year.
Excuse me, I'm sorry, but this man was killed, cold blood, on the streets of New York, family man, children, and to juxtapose, I think the healthcare thing is a totally separate issue in terms of how this Mangione allegedly killed an innocent person because he was taking out his grievances on an industry.
It's not unrelated because he took out the United Healthcare CEO specifically around healthcare grievances that he had, that many millions of Americans have when they talk about navigating the healthcare system. Does it justify murdering somebody? No, it doesn't. But does it make sense that based on his motive of somebody being negatively impacted by the healthcare system? Absolutely. That's why people think that he's a hero, because he stood up for something that many people suffer from across this country that has yet to go unnoticed in a massive way until he did this. So what it did was put healthcare executives on notice that, hey, people are suffering, people are dying, innocent people are dying because they can't get the health care that they need, and that system needs to be reformed. And he was willing to do something this drastic, which should never be the case, but he was the willing person that was going to do it. And if we're going to say that Daniel Penny is a hero when he killed Jordan Neely in cold blood, certainly we can see how Luigi Mangione.
Time out here. Time out. Time out. That is an outrageous comment, but I'll let Melanie jump in for that one.
Please. It certainly is an outrageous comment to suggest that Daniel Penny killed Neely in cold blood, and to draw some type of parallel between this guy who shot someone in the back, who was innocently preparing to walk in and give a speech, compare that to Neely, who was threatening people in an enclosed space, including women and children. To draw that kind of comparison is absolutely outrageous. What happened to the left? What happened to the peaceful protests? What happened to the non-violent way of getting things moved along and changing the world? I don't understand what happened to the left and people on the left to even suggest that there's it's never okay to murder someone and then put a comma and a but after it is absolutely outrageous. Anything you say after but is just BS and ridiculous. And it's frightening, quite frankly, that anyone would justify and say, oh, this person stood up and this person was brave and he's some kind of hero. He's no hero. He's a punk and a coward.
Theron, your comments?
Both people decided to take justice into their own hands, and so it can't be skewed just because of what the
hold on, Theron, please. You just said took justice in his own hands by assassinating a man in his back? That's justice in your world? That's justice.
Not justice at all. One person is trying to prevent and protect women and children, and another person took away.
Wow. Justice is shooting a man in the back. That is a new comment from the left. And aren't you afraid of a slippery slope? If I don't like my iPhone, do I go after the CEO of Apple because I'm frustrated? If I buy a lemon GM, do I go after the CEO to make a statement? Is that justice?
Someone might.
I'm sorry?
I wouldn't do it, but someone might.
But you're justifying that.
Melanie, your thoughts?
It's disgusting. The thought of it is absolutely disgusting. These are the same people who champion taking away innocent life in the womb. So it should be no surprise that they have no respect for the sanctity of life. But I will say that I am particularly shocked by these comments and by the alleged parallels that make absolutely no sense. There's a huge difference between executing somebody by shooting them in the back because they happen to be the CEO of a company that you disagree with and has nothing to do with actual policy and laws that are set in place that allow healthcare companies to do what they do. Let's address those issues. But to say that it's okay to pop a cap in the CEO of a company for that is outrageous and disgusting and has no respect for life itself. It's gross.
I'm going to move on to this next comment.
Innocent life, we know that. So,
I'm sorry.
A fetus growing in the womb isn't even a fully formed life. So we can't even talk about telling a person what to do with their own body.
How did abortion get into this?
I brought that up. That was my bad, Deneen. Apologies.
Okay. All right, so let's move on because the clock's ticking here. I want to go to this, what's been in the news. NYPD Commissioner Jessica Tisch, she also spoke at the same news conference, delivering this message to those that celebrate the actions of Luigi Mangione. Let's take a listen.
And let me be perfectly clear. In the nearly 2 weeks since Mr. Thompson's killing, we have seen a shocking and appalling celebration of cold-blooded murder. Social media has erupted with praise for this cowardly attack. People ghoulishly plastered posters threatening the other CEOs, with an X over Mr. Thompson's picture, as though he was some sort of a sick trophy.
Theron, your thoughts on this comment, or on her comments?
Goes back to the same. Both of these things happen in New York. So it is a parallel story. And that's the reality. People took justice into their own hands. We can't cherry pick when we decide who we're going to deem a hero and who we're not based on who the victim was or is or how much money they made. That's the part that's unfair. So if we're going to have the conversation about it, then yeah, we do need to draw the parallels and how New York is responding. People are sick and tired and fed up. Yes, they are doing drastic things that I wouldn't do. Maybe none of us would participate in. But there are people who think that way. And if they don't have an outlet to get out their grievances, we will unfortunately see more things like this happen. People want to see change.
But they do have outlets to air their grievances. We have a free press. We have silent protests. We have all social media. We have all kinds of means to get our grievances out that don't involve executing a man, cold-blooded murder in the streets, so that now his children and his wife and his family don't have that loved one with them this coming holiday and any holiday in the future. That's not what we do here in the United States. That's not how we do this.
Theron, it seems to me that the real accountability, look, the government failed Mr. Neely. Unfortunately, he was killed because he was threatening people on the subway, but he never should have been in the subway because the government failed. And if you're frustrated with the healthcare system, who wrote the rules of the healthcare system? It's the federal government. I would say it's Obamacare. So why don't the people take matters into their own hand by voting for the right people? Because downstream we're seeing violence. Upstream, in my view, it's the government's fault, whether it be Obamacare with former President Obama or with the New York City Health Department for allowing a deranged man to run the streets. It's the Democrats' onus.
It's not Obamacare. And when you look at me, you can see a shining example of why it's not Obamacare, because literally Obamacare, or what's also known as ACA or the Affordable Care Act, saved my life years ago when I was a Los Angeles resident. So that has saved many of lives over the years. So it's not the federal government. These are the healthcare CEOs and executives who are greedy and looking out for their bottom line and not the health of the American people. And that's the problem. It's not the government. It's not the employers. It is the healthcare CEOs, the healthcare executives, the folks who hold the line against
And
giving
who writes the
people proper
rules, though,
healthcare.
Theron? Who writes the regulations?
The regulations, it starts with the executives.
The executives follow the government's rules and regulations.
You can't ask the government to vote on something that doesn't exist.
So let me just wrap this up here. Theron, you think it's fine, essentially, that Mangione did what he did because he's an example of what others are going through?
If you listen, I said it is never okay to murder someone, as I have said many times before. But what I did say is that if you are going to consider Daniel Penny a hero after what he did, then certainly we can understand why people view Luigi Mangione as a hero.
The two
Melanie,
are, Melanie, your final thoughts.
I don't understand that. I don't get that inference. I think there's a huge difference. If you think that shooting that CEO is now going to offer more protection and for people in the healthcare system, or somehow protect women and children in a healthcare sense, the same way Daniel Penny had to make a split-second decision to protect everyone in that subway on that very day. And it was not punitive as a punishment. He was restraining Daniel Penny, and the toxology report, he was restraining Mr. Neely, and the toxology report and other factors, such as his drug use, mental health, the fact that he was having an episode, all played a factor in him dying. To suggest that it was vigilante justice, that Daniel Penny went in there and saw that a man was acting erratically and said, I'm going to kill him, and that's what happened, is really a mischaracterization of what happened in that case. And that's why it is not a parallel or a comparison at all. They're completely unrelated cases.
Well, we got to leave it there. Thank you so much for joining us this morning, Melanie Collette and Theron Bond. Thank you.
Thank you.